Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stuti, and I am from the studios of IIHM Delhi campus with Ms. Aradhana, the CEO and founder of Aptamine Partners, a global expert on travel and tourism and hospitality industry. It's an honor to have a chat with you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me, Siddhi.
Thank you, ma'am. Please tell us something about your work.
So I am a global expert on travel, tourism, and hospitality. I have lived in 5 continents, worked in 75 odd countries. I wear a few hats. I am the CEO and founder of Aptamine, which is a private client advisory. And bulk of my work is advising governments, destinations, and leaders in the private sector on how can you use tourism as a force for good. I also have a portfolio of board roles, some of them public, some of them private, which includes being the chair of the advisory board of the Red Sea project in Saudi Arabia, and the former managing director of tourism for NEOM, which is also another project in Saudi Arabia. And I sit on multiple other boards. I do tons of public speaking, and I'm delighted to be here in India around the G20 preparations, but also the Young Chef Olympia and Sustainability Conference at IIHM. So thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, ma'am, to have you here with us. So I would like to ask a few questions about you.
Go ahead.
So we have a focus at IIHM on poverty alleviations and removing hunger and inequalities. How do you see the impact, which is the biggest challenge that we are facing, for example, like world climate? So what are your views on it?
Look, there is. It's interesting because there is no silver bullet. There is no magic answer, especially with regards to climate change, right?
Yes.
Because climate change is one of those problems which I think is exponential in nature. Meaning, the more we do to solve climate change, the worse it gets.
Yes.
So it feels as if we're never catching up. But there are a couple of thoughts I have on climate change. And number one is, first of all, being aware that the problems for the climate change is not going to originate in UK, US, or Europe. The big difference that can be made to climate change is going to come in from India, China, Latin America, and Africa. And the trick here, or the biggest problem we face with regards to solving climate change, is we're talking about dense economies with a large population where, exactly as you said, there is poverty, there is hunger. In the last 20 years, India has uplifted 415 million people out of poverty. And when you have a country, or when you have the people in a country really focused on pulling themselves out of poverty, or climbing out of poverty, and getting a better life for their children and themselves, how can you expect them to be focused on finding solutions or even prioritizing climate change? It's not going to happen, right?
Yes.
It's the same in China. There are 125 million people who are below the poverty line in China. I mean, let's not go to Africa or Latin America or India. I think it's a great example. And I'm not talking hunger where you don't have desserts for the third course. I'm talking about children going hungry. 1/3 of all children in the world who are going hungry are in India. So we're talking malnutrition. We're talking about not having one single meal in a day. How do you then take that population and get them to prioritize on acting towards climate change? It's not going to happen, quite frankly, right?
Yes.
So my thing is, it has to be a two-pronged approach. One, our savior is going to be technology. I'm talking scientific breakthroughs which are going to make, let's say, sustainable aviation fuel available at scale and at a cheap cost. Only then will we be able to solve problems with regards to climate change. I'm talking moonshot thinking. We sent people up to the moon, right?
Yes.
So we can do that. I mean, science, technology is there for a reason, and that's exactly what we need. Scientific, technological breakthroughs which really results in change. We need people who are rising faster than leaders who are going to do things faster than rising sea levels. We need forest fires that are being fueled, that same fire fueling innovation and entrepreneurship. So we come up with solutions for climate change. So that's the first prong. The second prong is what we can do individually as people. And if these two come together, I think not only are we solving then for climate change, we're then solving for the big problems that you spoke of, which is poverty, which is hunger, which is removing inequalities.
That was really nice, and it was very educational for all the people out here that how we can solve the problem when we have a lot of problems before in our hand. So moving on to the next question, you were on a panel yesterday about the sustainability in travel industry and tourism. And what do you feel? What are the solutions that would make a difference in the industry that we're working in and it's going at a bar right now?
So, I think of it. So, what is the most stable structure in the world? It is not a circle. Because the first thing that comes to mind, oh, it must be a circle. Actually, the most stable structure in the world is a triangle.
Yes.
And the triangle has three vertices. And when it comes to solving for the sustainability challenge facing travel, tourism, and hospitality, I think we need the three vertices of the triangle coming together to solve that. And by which, I mean the government, and it's not the invisible hand of God or the invisible hand of God which Maradona used to score the 1986 winning goal. This is very much the visible hand of government. I'm talking the right frameworks. I'm talking the legislation. I'm talking the rules and incentives that you need to give businesses to really prioritize sustainability. So that's the first one. The second one is the private sector. The first one with the government is necessary, but it's not sufficient. You need the private sector to bring speed and scale to the mix, because only if the private sector really allocates financial capital and the will to make change will we then see change at scale and at a fast enough space. And the third vertex of the triangle is us, the consumers, right? There are 8 billion consumers in the world, and we are not just voting with our wallet, we're voting with our values. So if these three things come together, I think what we have is a fail-safe recipe to ensure we're not just talking the talk on sustainability, but we're actually walking the talk on sustainability. And if you look at these three vertices, what you need in all three is leadership. You need leaders in government, you need leaders in the private sector, you need leaders amongst us, in the consumers, and you need leaders who are willing to be change makers, who are willing to stick their neck out, and who are willing to take a stance and be courageous with their choices and bold with their actions instead of just sticking to the status quo, which is
Definitely. So that's how we can solve, even not solve, but look out for the problems. The three vertices of the triangle, as ma'am has told us about it. So moving on to the next question that I have is, while you're here at the Young Chef Olympiad, what are your views on the power of the youth, the impact that they can make a change, that how youth can change for our own coming future?
So one of the things that I found very exciting yesterday were there were uh, participants from 53 different countries
Yes.
at the Young Chef
Yes.
Olympiad. And I learned that this is the biggest congregation after the Olympics and FIFA,
FIFA,
where you
yes.
have so many countries coming together. Uh, I thought it really stood out for multiple reasons. Because I'm an irrationally optimistic person, and if I think we have a bright future, it's because of you guys, because you have the power to impact that change.
Yes.
Look, if you take the 3 or 5 biggest problems facing humanity, climate change, poverty, biodiversity loss, any of these things, you now have a Greta Thunberg in your ranks in every company. There are many Gretas in this school, in this institute, as we speak. And what you guys are doing and are going to do a lot more in the future is ensure you join companies and back ideas which resonate with your values. Only 20% of the youth will join a company which does not resonate their personal values.
Yes.
And your personal values are actually sound. I can't say that for my generation or the generation before, but what that means is you guys will support, back, look out, and hold people accountable when it comes to doing the right thing. And I think this will be the fastest way to accelerate change when the youth really decide that, we've seen this in the past, right? You come out to vote and you swing the political results.
Yes.
You come out and make a decision to boycott a company, boycott a country, boycott a product. That's a kick on the backside for the economics of that company or that destination, right?
Yes.
So this is what I mean by the power of the youth to really impact change. So you guys are, I think, really, really powerful, even though you might not feel like it at all times. And I think as a leader of a business, the leader of government, it would be the biggest colossal mistake if you ignore this generation.
Okay. So, as we can see that ma'am has already enlightened us a lot about all the different sectors that we are trying to cover for the poverty, for hunger, and how the youth can impact for their own coming future. So, ma'am, that was a really lovely chat with you. Thank you for joining with us. We will be back soon from the IIHM Delhi campus. Stay tuned, folks.